Hi everyone, it's Miss DeVito. Today I'm going to show you how to make chocolate chip cookies. So I have all my ingredients already scaled out. In a large mixing bowl, I have half a pound of butter, 4 ounces of white granulated sugar, and 6 ounces of brown sugar. In a separate mixing bowl, I have my dry ingredients. I have 11 ounces of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, and half a teaspoon of baking powder. I also have 12 ounces of chocolate chips, 2 large eggs, and as well as my vanilla extract that I will measure out at the end. So in order to start my cookie recipe, we always start with the creaming method. Okay, the creaming method, you take the butter and the sugar and you blend them together. So this method helps to dissolve the sugar as well as aerates it to make your to have a much softer texture cookie. So I like to use a wooden spoon during this process, and I like to get a wooden spoon that is flat so that I can actually break down the butter a little bit better. I don't like to use a rubber spatula during this because the rubber spatula is a little bit more flimsy. This is much more sturdier. So in order to blend the ingredients together, I have my butter cut into small cubes, and it is at room temperature. And I'm going to start slowly blending it all together, mixing. And I'm going slow because I don't want to make a mess on the table. Okay. When you're using brown sugar, you have to be careful that you don't leave it out in the open for too long because the air will actually cause it to dry out. So I left it out for a little bit. So I just wanted to break it down a little bit. It's a little more pressure. So I'm going to keep, what I'm doing is I'm taking the spoon and I'm rubbing it against the sides of the bowl. And when I'm doing that, it's actually flattening out the butter and making it mix into the sugar a little bit better. This part takes a little bit of time and patience. A little elbow grease. Okay, so I'm keeping on mixing until all of the butter is completely incorporated and you don't see any white streaks of butter inside your mixture. And you'll notice that the color will change. It'll get much lighter the more you kind of mix it. And you can work a little bit faster to kind of put a little bit more air in it after everything is mixed well. Okay. So now I'm going to prepare my eggs. Okay, so when we crack eggs, we take our eggs, we crack them on the table just a couple of times, and then we put our thumbs into the indentation that we have, and we open them, okay? We always crack onto a table because we want to make sure that if you crack it on the side of the bowl, you actually get more possibility of having shells in your final product. Tap it a couple of times, use your thumbs, break it apart, and then it goes. I'm also going to add to that my vanilla. So I need a half a teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, pour it over all the way up to the top, and you can put it right in. Okay, so now I'm going to add my eggs one at a time. Okay, so in order, you don't have to be perfect, you just want to get, oh come on, one yolk and some of the whites. And so what I do is I crack my yolk and I slowly incorporate this in. And what I'm doing is I want to make sure that I don't add my next yolk until this one is completely mixed in. The fat from the egg yolk is actually causing it to emulsify. So if you add too much of the egg at one time, it'll take a longer time to get together, and you'll see that it looks a little bit grainy and could possibly break a little bit. Okay, so you'll see the more I mix it, it starts to come together a little bit more. The batter is loose and then it comes together the more I add and mix it. Fully incorporated. I'm going to add my second egg. Again, I break my yolk and I mix it in. I'm going to just put this on the side briefly, and I'm going to turn to my dry ingredients. So I have my salt and my baking powder in here. The baking powder is actually is the leavening agent that's going to have them puff when they are baking. So I'm going to mix it so that it's incorporated well, so I don't bite into any baking powder spots or salt spots. Now at this point, you want to make sure that we're not going to over mix it. I'm just going to add a little bit just to start because I don't want to make a mess. Just to go slow. And I'm not really going to be vigorous here because the more I mix it, the less potent the baking powder actually becomes. So I'm just doing a little at a time so it's not messy. Add the rest. Not forgetting about my chocolate chips. When I'm about 3/4 of the way through mixing, I'm going to add my chocolate chips to the batter. Switch over to my rubber spatula. Okay, so I'm about 3/4 of the way there. There's still a little bit of excess flour, but once I put my chocolate chips in, I'm going to it's going to come together really nicely. Okay, keep mixing, but remember, we're just looking to fully incorporate. We don't want to see any flour spots, and we want to mix the chocolate chips in well. And we use the rubber spatula at this point because it's going to help scrape the bowl while we're mixing. If you want to add more chocolate chips, you can. If you feel that was enough, I think that we added enough chocolate chips in there. I probably did about 8 ounces of chocolate chips, but they're small chocolate chips, so that they look like a lot more. Okay. All right. So now that it is fully incorporated, our mix is fully incorporated, we are going to scoop them, okay? We need these to chill before we can bake them. So I'm gonna scoop them all on one pan and close together. When I'm getting ready to bake them, I need to spread them apart because when they bake, they will grow and they will bake into each other if we put them too close. So in order to properly scoop, you're gonna take your portion scoop, okay? We have all different sized ones, right? I have a larger one or a smaller one, whichever you care to do. And we go right into the scoop And we want these to be even because they're all gonna go in the oven at the same time. So they need to finish at the same time. So if we put them at different sizes or we don't properly measure them, we're gonna have some that are raw, some that are burning, and we wanna avoid that. So you scoop right in. And then what I do is I just wipe on the side of the bowl, and I can scoop right in. Okay, I'm gonna keep on doing this until I've completed them all. And again, you'll see how I'm gonna put them close to each other. And that's only because we're going to chill them. When they come out, we will separate them. As you can see, I have finished scooping all of the cookie dough, and I have actually made sure that I put it on in a perfect line across both sides. So this way, if I need to count how many I have, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it's easy for me to know that I have 35 on this sheet pan, okay? I let them chill in the refrigerator until they were hardened, and now I'm going to bake them. I'm going to transfer them to a baking sheet that is lined with parchment paper. This is going to allow them to not stick, and then this is also going to help me take them off of the pan when they come out of the oven so they don't continue to keep cooking. On a half sheet pan, I can do 3 across and 4 lengthwise. If they were bigger, I probably wouldn't be able to do as many, because they would spread out more when they bake. But because these are smaller in size, they're not going to expand that much. Now we're going to go to the oven. I have my oven on 350 degrees. I'm going to place them in the middle of the oven. I'm going to cook them for 7 minutes. I'm going to rotate them and then cook them for another 5 to 7 minutes until they start to get golden brown, but we'll come back and check. Here I'm checking on my cookies. I'm going to rotate them so that there is even baking, just in case there's any hot spots in the oven. Okay, they should take about 5 more minutes in the oven. So my cookies are done baking. They're nice and golden brown. Okay, browning on the bottom as well. I would like to take these off of this pan because the pan is hot. They are still cooking, so that's why we use our parchment paper. The parchment paper lets us easily transfer them to the table from the pan so that they can cool off. Let these cool before eating and enjoy. My cookies are done, but I want to get them off this hot baking sheet, so I use the parchment paper to slide them off and give them time to cool before we eat them. Enjoy.